There's a force inside you, a storm waiting to rage. And life, oh life, it tests your limits. It pushes you to the edge, trying to make you react, to let your emotions take control. But here's the truth. Your peace, your power, it lies in the moments when you decide not to react. You felt it, haven't you? That rush of anger, frustration, and confusion when someone cuts you off, when things don't go your way, when life seems to come at you from every direction. It's easy to let it consume you, to let your emotions take over. It's natural. It's what we've been taught to do. But the real question is, what happens when you don't react? When you decide to keep calm in the storm, when you decide that you are not going to let anyone or anything dictate your peace, something incredible happens. You discover a power within you that's been there all along, waiting for you to tap into it. You discover control. You discover your true strength. Now, I'm not here to tell you it's easy. No, this journey is anything but easy. But I'm here to tell you it's possible. And today, I'm going to give you 6 habits to help you take control of your emotions, to stop reacting, and to begin living the life of peace and power you've been searching for. Number 1, pause before you speak. There's something deeply powerful about silence. It's not weakness, it's not surrender, it's power under control. Most of us grew up in environments where the loudest voice got heard, where the first to react seemed the strongest. But I want to tell you today, that is not strength. Strength is when you feel that fire boiling inside your chest, when your emotions are begging you to explode, but you take a breath and don't. That's real power. That's self-mastery. When someone says something offensive, triggering, disrespectful, you feel it. Your heart races, your jaw tightens, your hands may even clench, and your instinct says, say something, prove yourself, get even. But let me ask you, what does it cost you to react? Peace, dignity, opportunities, relationships? A moment of reaction can undo years of character. That's why the pause is everything. It's the difference between peace and regret, between wisdom and foolishness. The pause isn't just about keeping quiet. It's about giving yourself room to choose the best version of yourself before the moment chooses it for you. When you pause, you give your mind a chance to catch up with your emotions. You give your soul a chance to rise above your feelings and lead with wisdom instead of anger. Think about it. How many times have you said something in the heat of the moment only to wish you could take it back? That feeling of guilt that creeps in later when the dust settles and you realize your words cut deeper than they should have. That regret can linger, sometimes for years. But if you had just taken 5 seconds, 5 slow breaths to calm your spirit, things could have gone differently. You might have chosen silence. You might have chosen a better word. You might have chosen compassion over conflict. The pause is not weakness. The pause is divine. It is the gap where clarity lives. It's where we hear the whisper of reason over the roar of rage. It's the moment that saves us from turning a small disagreement into a broken relationship. Let me give you this. Emotional intelligence isn't just about being kind. It's about knowing when to speak, when to listen, and when to walk away. And you can't access any of that wisdom unless you give yourself the pause. That pause is like a doorway, and every time you take it, you're walking away from reaction and toward responsibility. Some people say, but if I don't speak up right away, I'll look weak. No, you're not weak. You're just choosing not to feed chaos. You're choosing not to give your energy to something that might not matter tomorrow. There's nothing weak about that. In fact, most people don't have the discipline to do it. They let their emotions run wild, and then they wonder why life feels out of control. But the person who can pause, that's a person who owns their emotions instead of being owned by them. Now let's go deeper. The reason the pause is so powerful is because it changes the direction of your life. Every reaction is a seed. Every word you speak in emotion plants something in someone's mind and in your own future. Will it be a seed of peace or a seed of pain? When you pause, you choose the type of garden you want to grow. Your words carry weight. They echo. And the more you speak without thinking, the more harm you may sow without even realizing it. But when you pause, you put your future back in your hands. You decide, no, I won't let this moment define me. I won't let anger speak for me. You choose legacy over ego. You choose growth over drama. That one small pause can change the entire story. Imagine a heated conversation. The other person is yelling, trying to bait you, push your buttons. You feel your temperature rising. You're ready to lash out, but you stop. You take a breath. You look at them, not to respond, but to understand. Maybe you see their pain. Maybe you realize it's not even about you. Maybe you realize they're fighting something you can't see. And just like that, your reaction turns into reflection. You go from a fighter to a listener, from a reactor to a leader. That pause, that's wisdom stepping in. That's emotional maturity standing up. It's one of the hardest things to do, but it separates the person who lives by impulse from the one who lives by intention. We've all been wounded by words spoken too quickly, too harshly, too carelessly. And the damage, it lasts. Some of us are still carrying words we heard as children. Words someone said in a moment of anger that they didn't even mean. But they didn't pause. They didn't think. And now those words echo inside us years later. That's the cost of not pausing. That's the power of emotional discipline. You might feel justified in your reaction. You might feel like someone deserves your wrath. But ask yourself, does releasing it bring you peace, or does it make you smaller? Because true strength is quiet. True strength doesn't need to prove itself. It simply is. And when you pause, you rise into that strength. The pause is not just for arguments. It's for every area of your life. When someone criticizes you at work, pause. When your partner says something hurtful, pause. When your child disrespects you, pause. Not because you don't care, but because you care enough to respond with love and leadership, not rage. Every time you pause, you train your nervous system to choose peace over panic. You become a better communicator, a better friend, a better parent, a better human. That pause rewires your brain to think before reacting. It's not easy at first. It takes discipline. But the more you do it, the more natural it becomes. And over time, people will notice. They'll see your calm. They'll feel your strength. And they'll respect your ability to stand still in the storm. Sometimes you pause not because you're unsure of what to say, but because you respect the moment too much to let emotion steal its value. Not everything needs a response. Silence can speak volumes. Your dignity, your grace, your calm presence. Those things are powerful. When someone tries to provoke you and you choose stillness instead of chaos, you show them who's in control. Not them. Not the situation. You. That is the power of the pause. It's not just about managing your emotions. It's about mastering your future. It's about taking the steering wheel back from your impulses and saying, I choose peace. I choose wisdom. I choose me. So many conflicts in this world start because of one missing moment. A pause. One pause could save a marriage. One pause could keep a friendship alive. One pause could prevent a mistake you'd carry for life. But we rush. We react. We spill words like water, not realizing some words stain forever. That's why the pause is sacred. It's not a delay, it's a gift. It gives you time to remember your values, time to choose who you want to be, time to filter emotion through truth and respond with clarity. Think of it as a shield. Every time you pause, you protect yourself from unnecessary battles. Let me remind you, the world will test you. People will say things to provoke you. Life will throw moments at you designed to make you break. But you don't have to fall for it. You don't have to rise to every bait. You don't have to lose your peace just because someone else has lost theirs. That's their problem, not yours. You protect your space. You guard your peace. And that begins with the pause. Don't underestimate it. Don't overlook it. That small act of restraint may be the very thing that builds your character more than anything else. Pause doesn't just change how you respond to others, it changes how you feel about yourself. When you react emotionally, you often feel regret. But when you pause and choose your words with care, you feel empowered. You look in the mirror and respect the person you're becoming. You trust yourself more. You stop being afraid of your emotions because you realize you control them. They don't control you. That pause is your declaration. I am not who I used to be. I don't fight every battle. I don't need to react. I walk in peace, I speak with purpose, and I live with discipline. That's the mindset of someone who's building something real. So the next time life pushes you to react, remember this moment. Remember that the strongest people aren't the loudest. They're the calmest. They aren't the ones who strike first. They're the ones who wait, who breathe, who rise above. You can be that person. You can choose to pause before you speak. And in that pause, you'll find everything you've been searching for: clarity, respect, control, and peace. Don't let anyone steal your growth with their chaos. Don't let the heat of the moment steal your legacy. The power of not reacting, it starts with one habit, and that habit is the pause. Choose it, live it, and watch your life transform. Number 2, choose your battles wisely. Every day we are faced with moments that challenge our patience, our pride, and our emotions. People test us, circumstances push us, and situations unfold that seem to demand a response. But here's the truth. Not every battle is worth fighting. Some battles are distractions, not destiny. Some arguments only serve to drain your energy and pull you into chaos that has nothing to do with your growth. When you choose to fight every little thing, you become a slave to everything around you. But when you step back and evaluate, is this worth my energy? Will this matter in 5 days, 5 months, 5 years? You begin to move with wisdom, not impulse. You begin to rise above petty noise and step into a place of peace and power. You don't need to prove your worth in every disagreement. Your value is not determined by how loudly you argue or how many times you win. It's determined by how confidently you walk away from things that are beneath the level of the person you're becoming. Choosing your battles wisely means recognizing that not every fight is an opportunity for strength. Some are traps, and the wisest move is to walk away. Emotional maturity is not about being passive, it's about being selective. There is a huge difference between being weak and being wise. The weak react to everything. The wise choose when and how to respond. You're not obligated to show up to every conflict someone invites you to. In fact, walking away from nonsense is one of the greatest forms of power you will ever develop. When someone disrespects you, when someone tries to pull you into drama, you always have a choice. You can get pulled down into the mess, or you can rise above and say, this is not worth my energy. That's not avoidance. That's leadership. That's control. That's knowing who you are and where you're headed. Because let's be honest, when you're focused on your growth, your goals, and your peace, you don't have time to waste defending yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Not every opinion deserves a response. Not every insult deserves your attention. Save your energy for the fights that matter, fights for your purpose, your values, your future. The truth is, you'll never have peace if you fight every time you're offended. You'll be in a constant state of war against people, against your own emotions, against your inner calm. And guess what? That chaos doesn't come from outside, it comes from within. When you learn to filter your reactions, you start to create space for clarity. You begin to ask better questions. Is this worth it? Is this my assignment or just a distraction? Number 4, am I fighting because this truly matters or because my ego got bruised? That's a tough one, isn't it? Sometimes we jump into battles not because the situation demands it, but because our pride does. But pride is expensive. It'll cost you time, relationships, and peace of mind. When you choose your battles wisely, you choose to invest in what truly matters, not what simply feels urgent. You begin to live with intentionality. You stop reacting to everything that moves. You develop a kind of calm that confuses people. And that's when you know you're growing. Now hear this. You are not weak for walking away. You are not weak for staying silent. You are not weak for choosing peace over confrontation. In fact, it takes incredible strength to look someone in the eye, feel every urge in your body telling you to react, and still choose silence. That's real power. That's discipline. That's what separates those who lead from those who follow. Most people want to win the argument, but wise people want to win the war for their peace, their time, their purpose. And they know that means sacrificing the need to be right in every conversation. It means surrendering temporary victories for long-term growth. It means being secure enough to let someone else win the argument. Because you know the real win is maintaining your direction, your emotional clarity, and your purpose. Some people are not looking for resolution, they're looking for reaction. Don't give it to them. The moment you stop fighting unnecessary battles is the moment you start living intentionally. Think of your energy like currency. You only get so much of it each day. And if you spend it on petty conflicts, on defending your character to people who don't matter, on explaining yourself over and over to those who aren't listening, you'll be broke by noon. Then you'll have nothing left for your dreams, your purpose, or your peace. Choosing your battles wisely is about budgeting your emotional energy. It's about recognizing this isn't worth it. I'd rather invest this energy in healing, in growing and building something meaningful. Every time you walk away from a pointless argument, you are depositing peace into your future. Every time you choose not to defend yourself to someone who is committed to misunderstanding you, you protect your mental wealth. That's not weakness. That's financial wisdom of the soul. You are the treasurer of your time and energy. Don't bankrupt your potential, trying to settle debts with people who never intend to pay you peace. It's also about knowing that some battles are not meant to be fought. They're meant to be learned from. Sometimes life puts you in a situation to show you what not to fight. That disagreement with a friend that turned ugly, maybe it wasn't about winning. It was about revealing who they are. That coworker who tries to undermine you at every turn, maybe it's not your job to confront them. It's your job to shine so bright their darkness gets exposed on its own. You don't always need to engage. Sometimes silence and success are the best responses. Because when people realize they can't get a rise out of you, they lose control over you. When you no longer respond to petty attacks, those attacks become powerless. You reclaim your peace. You reclaim your focus. You stop getting dragged into drama that was never yours to begin with. That's the kind of maturity that changes lives. You have to remember, every time you engage in an unnecessary battle, you lose something. Maybe a moment of joy, maybe your sense of peace, maybe even your self-respect. Because when you stoop to someone else's level just to prove a point, you end up standing in places that don't reflect your values. Fighting every battle is a sign of emotional immaturity. It's a sign that your ego still needs to prove itself. But choosing your battles wisely, that's growth, that's power, that's emotional evolution. It shows that you know the value of peace, that you understand the importance of preserving your emotional environment. You can't build a future if you're constantly cleaning up emotional messes from arguments that never needed to happen in the first place. You can't hear your calling when your ears are filled with noise from useless conflicts. That's why you must guard your focus and choose your fights like your life depends on it. Because in many ways it does. Sometimes people will misunderstand your silence as weakness. They'll think you're afraid, that you're avoiding, that you're insecure. Let them. Let them believe whatever they want. Because you're not living for their understanding. You're living for your peace. You're walking in purpose. You're building something real. And real builders don't have time to explain themselves to every passerby who questions their vision. You don't owe anyone your reaction. You don't owe anyone your energy. Choosing your battles wisely means knowing who and what is worth your time and having the courage to say no to everything else. That courage may make you stand alone sometimes, but it will also make you unstoppable. Because while others are busy fighting battles that don't belong to them, you'll be focused on building a life that reflects your values, your peace, and your calling. Finally, never forget this. Choosing your battles wisely doesn't mean you never fight. It means you fight with purpose. It means when you do stand your ground, it's not out of ego, but out of principle. It's not because someone offended you. It's because something important is at stake. You fight for your values, for your boundaries, for your family, for your future. And when those moments come, you fight with clarity, not chaos. You fight with grace, not rage. You fight with direction, not destruction. But most of the time, the real fight is internal. The fight to stay calm when disrespected. The fight to walk away when provoked. The fight to protect your peace in a world that constantly tries to steal it. That's the daily battle. And when you learn to win that one, you win them all. Because the person who can master when to fight and when to walk away is truly unstoppable. Number 3, shift your perspective. Sometimes it's not what's happening around you that's hurting you. It's how you see it. Life throws pain, disappointment, and adversity at all of us, but your power is not in changing the situation. It's in how you respond to it. Your perspective is the lens that colors everything you go through. If your lens is fogged up with negativity, anger, or self-pity, then every challenge will look like a mountain. But if you learn to shift your perspective, suddenly what looked like the end becomes a beginning. What felt like rejection becomes redirection. What seemed like failure becomes a lesson. This is not just about positive thinking. It's about powerful thinking. It's about training your mind to see the meaning behind the madness, to find the light even when you're surrounded by shadows. Because life isn't always going to be fair, but your perspective can make it meaningful. And when you take control of how you see things, you take control of how you feel, how you act, and how you grow. You stop being a victim of your circumstances and start becoming a creator of your future. Too many people are trapped in a mindset that makes them believe they are stuck, broken, or unlucky. But the truth is, their problem isn't their life. It's the way they interpret their life. If you keep telling yourself that life is always against you, then your brain will look for evidence to confirm it. If you keep focusing on what's missing, you'll never appreciate what's present. But when you shift your perspective, you reclaim power. You start asking better questions. What can this teach me? How can I grow from this? What if this is happening for me, not to me? That kind of thinking unlocks strength you didn't know you had. It gives you the courage to keep going even when it hurts, because you're no longer just reacting to life. You're responding with purpose. You're no longer stuck in the prison of your thoughts. You're climbing toward a better reality. Your life changes the moment your thinking does, and no one can do that for you. It starts with the decision to see differently. Pain will visit you in life. That's a guarantee. But suffering, that's optional. Suffering happens when you hold on to pain and replay it over and over through the wrong perspective. You tell yourself stories that make the wound deeper. I'm not good enough. This always happens to me. I'll never recover. But if you can change the story, you can change the experience. If you can shift your lens from this broke me to this built me, you'll discover a power most people never reach. That's what perspective does. It transforms pain into purpose. It turns obstacles into opportunity. It gives you the ability to smile, even when things don't go your way, not because you're in denial, but because you've trained your heart to believe that even setbacks are setups for something greater. You don't need a perfect life to be at peace. You need a powerful mindset. You need the ability to look at chaos and still find clarity. And that starts with the decision to shift the way you see the world and yourself. Every storm you've been through has either made you bitter or better. And the difference wasn't the storm, it was your perspective. Two people can go through the same heartbreak, the same betrayal, the same failure. One comes out stronger, the other comes out shattered. The only difference was the way they interpreted the pain, the way they framed the situation. One chose to see the pain as part of their progress, the other saw it as the end of the road. You have that same choice every day. You can either let life define you, or you can decide how you define life. You can see struggle as punishment, or you can see it as preparation. Perspective doesn't change what happened, but it changes what happens next. Because once you take control of your perspective, you take back control of your life. You become the narrator of your story, not just a character in someone else's script. And that's where freedom lives, not in changing your past, but in choosing what it means for your future. Think about how many moments we've wasted being angry over something we couldn't control, or bitter about something we couldn't change. That's the trap of a limited perspective. It keeps you focused on what's wrong instead of what's possible. It narrows your vision until you can't see anything but the problem. But when you zoom out, when you step back and look at the bigger picture, you start to realize that maybe that closed door wasn't rejection, it was protection. Maybe that delay wasn't a denial, it was divine timing. When you shift your perspective, you start to trust that life isn't random. It's not happening to hurt you, it's happening to shape you. It's refining you, preparing you, molding you into someone stronger. That kind of mindset doesn't come from comfort. It comes from choosing to believe that there's more to the story than the pain you feel right now. And if you can hold that belief even in the dark, you'll find the strength to keep walking toward the light. You've got to understand, life is not about avoiding pain. It's about interpreting pain in a way that gives you purpose. If every disappointment breaks you, you'll live your life in pieces. But if you can learn to shift your perspective, those same disappointments will become pieces of a masterpiece you're building. Every broken chapter will become a paragraph of strength. Every loss will be repurposed into wisdom. And one day you'll look back and realize that the things you thought were destroying you were actually developing you. But that only happens when you stop asking, why me, and start asking, what now? That mindset is what separates survivors from thrivers. It's not about pretending everything's fine. It's about believing something good can still come out of it. It's about deciding that your future is not determined by what happened, but by how you choose to see it now. And that choice, that perspective, is the foundation of emotional freedom. Every breakthrough you want starts with a change in the way you think, because perspective shapes reality. If you walk through life believing you're always the victim, you'll miss every opportunity to be the victor. If you see every challenge as a curse, you'll never see the blessing hidden inside it. But if you shift your perspective to believe that every single thing is either a blessing or a lesson, then nothing can break you. Everything either lifts you or teaches you. That's a mindset of power. That's a mindset that refuses to stay down. And it doesn't come naturally, it comes through discipline, through the decision to see life through a lens of growth, not defeat. Every morning you wake up, you've got two choices: curse the day or command it. Feel sorry for yourself or fuel yourself with faith. And that choice starts in the mind. When you shift your perspective, you shift your entire direction. Let's be real. There will be days when life doesn't make sense. Days when nothing seems fair and everything you've planned falls apart. But those are the days that test your vision. That's when your perspective either lifts you or locks you. You have to train yourself to look deeper, to ask what this moment is teaching you instead of what it's taking from you. Because that's where wisdom is born. Not in what we avoid, but in what we endure with the right mindset. New construction calls it, but common. Shifting your perspective doesn't mean ignoring the pain. It means refusing to be defined by it. It means finding the lesson, the grace, the growth that's hidden inside every trial. You weren't made to crumble under pressure, you were made to rise. But rising doesn't start in your legs, it starts in your mind. In the way you see, the way you interpret, the way you respond. That's the kind of vision that makes champions. So if you're tired of being emotionally overwhelmed, if you're tired of feeling like life is always happening to you, start here. Start with your thoughts. Start with the way you see your life. Change your questions, change your internal language. Talk to yourself like someone who has value, who has strength, who has a future that isn't limited by their past. Stop focusing on what you lost and start focusing on what you're learning. Stop replaying the pain and start rehearsing the possibilities. When you shift your perspective, everything changes, even if your circumstances don't. Because you stop being controlled by emotion and you start being led by wisdom. And that shift, that's where emotional freedom begins. That's where strength is built. That's where peace is found. Not in a perfect life, but in a powerful perspective. You may not be able to control what happens next, but you can always control how you see it, and that vision will determine everything. Number 4. Let go of what you can't control. There's a kind of peace that only comes when you finally stop trying to control everything. It's the moment you exhale, not because the storm passed, but because you realized you were never meant to hold it all together in the first place. That's the kind of emotional freedom that changes your life. One of the most powerful habits you can build is learning to let go of what you can't control. Because trying to manage everything, every opinion, every outcome, every person's response is exhausting. It breaks your spirit and clouds your mind. You become a slave to anxiety, to fear, to frustration. But when you release the things you were never meant to carry, you make space for peace to move in. You make space for strength, for focus, for clarity. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means understanding that your energy is too valuable to be wasted on things you can't change. It means shifting your focus from resistance to resilience, from control to courage. That's where emotional mastery begins, not by holding tighter, but by surrendering what's not yours to fix. You don't control the weather. You don't control people's hearts. You don't control whether someone stays or walks away. You don't control how others treat you. what doors open or close, or how the world spins. And yet so many of us live like we do. We stress ourselves trying to force situations to go our way, trying to fix people who don't want to change, trying to rewrite the script of life in real time. But that's not your job. Your job is to show up with integrity, to give your best, and then to let the rest unfold. That takes courage. That takes faith. Because letting go feels scary. It feels like weakness at first. But in reality, it's one of the strongest things you'll ever do, because you're choosing trust over control. You're choosing inner peace over outer perfection. You're choosing to breathe through uncertainty instead of breaking under it. And that choice, repeated daily, turns into a habit that transforms your emotional state from chaos to calm. So many of our emotional struggles come from resisting what is. We want life to go a certain way, and when it doesn't, we panic, we react, we spiral, we get angry at things that aren't even within our reach. But peace doesn't come from control. It comes from clarity. It comes from knowing the difference between what's your responsibility and what's not. What you can influence and what you must accept. That wisdom, that line is what sets the emotionally strong apart. Because they know how to redirect their energy. They know how to say, this is not mine to carry, and walk away without guilt. They know how to release outcomes and focus on effort. That's not laziness. That's emotional intelligence. That's spiritual growth. It's the deep understanding that holding on to things you can't control is like trying to stop the tide with your bare hand. It will only leave you exhausted and empty. But the moment you let go, your hands become open to receive what is meant for you. Think about how much time we waste worrying about what others think. We replay conversations, try to read minds, interpret silence, anticipate rejection. But none of that changes the outcome. All it does is rob us of our peace. You can't control how someone sees you, how they talk about you, or whether they appreciate you. What you can control is how you show up. You can control your integrity, your kindness, your consistency. And that's where your power is. When you let go of the need to be understood, liked, or validated by everyone, you set yourself free. You take your power back. You stop dancing for approval and start walking in purpose. And once you realize how much freedom there is in not needing to control people's perceptions, you start to live lighter, you breathe easier, you rest deeper. Because your peace is no longer tied to someone else's opinion. It's rooted in something stronger: truth, alignment, self-respect. And that kind of peace, that's unshakable. We also try to control timing. We want things to happen now. We want answers now. We want healing now. But life doesn't operate on our timeline. Sometimes doors stay closed longer than we want. Sometimes the breakthrough takes years. And in those waiting seasons, we fight the silence. We grow impatient. We question our path. But here's the truth. Trying to force timing only increases your suffering. It drains your joy. It blinds you to the growth happening in the wait. But when you let go of the need to rush the process, you start to find purpose in the pause. You begin to see that sometimes the delay is the blessing. Sometimes the silence is the training ground. And the moment you stop trying to control when things happen, you become present. You start living in the now instead of obsessing over the next. And that shift allows peace to flow. Because you're no longer living in resistance, you're living in rhythm. You're flowing with life instead of fighting against it. Letting go also means accepting that closure may never come the way you want. People may never apologize. They may never explain why they hurt you. They may never make things right. And if you wait on that, you'll stay stuck. Your healing can't be dependent on someone else's awareness or remorse. You have to choose to let go even without the apology. You have to choose to forgive, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. Letting go is not about excusing the pain. It's about refusing to carry it any longer. It's saying, what happened hurt me, but I won't let it define me. That's emotional strength. That's liberation. You stop waiting for others to release you, and you release yourself. You stop waiting for external justice and find internal freedom. And that's how you begin to move forward, not in bitterness, not as a victim, but as a victor. Because your healing is yours. And the moment you take it back, everything begins to change. Another powerful reason to let go is because control is an illusion. The more you cling to it, the more you realize how fragile it is. People leave, plans fall apart, health shifts, money comes and goes. And if your peace depends on all those things being stable, then your peace will always be unstable. But when you learn to detach your joy from circumstances, you become unbreakable. You realize that real strength comes from adaptability, not control. From surrender, not resistance. From presence, not perfection. You stop needing everything to go your way and you start trusting that even when it doesn't, you'll still be okay. That kind of mindset is rare. It's revolutionary. It takes work. It takes practice, but it's worth it because once you learn to let go, you stop reacting to every storm. You start navigating life with calm, with clarity, with confidence, and people will feel that energy. They'll notice your peace, even if they don't understand it. And deep down, they'll respect it. Now, letting go doesn't mean becoming passive. It doesn't mean you stop caring or trying. It means you focus on what's in your control, your effort, your choices, your responses. It means you stop wasting energy on what's out of your hands and start investing it in what you can shape. That's how you gain momentum. That's how you start to feel empowered again. You clean up your mindset. You stay rooted in truth. You show up with purpose. You take action where you can and you release the rest. That's not giving up. That's growing up. That's what emotional discipline looks like. It's not about being numb. It's about being wise. You feel deeply, but you don't let your emotions lead you into chaos. You care, but you don't cling. You plan, but you don't panic. And when life throws curveballs, and it will, you breathe, you pause, and you keep going. Because your peace isn't based on the outcome. It's based on the mindset you chose along the way. So take a deep breath. Look at what you're carrying. Look at what's weighing on your mind, what's stealing your sleep, what's draining your energy. And ask yourself, is this something I can actually control? If the answer is no, then it's time to let go. Not tomorrow, not when things get easier, but now. Because every moment you hold on to what's not yours is a moment you lose peace, power, and purpose. And you were made for more than that. You were made to walk in freedom, to stand with strength, to move with grace. And none of that comes from control. It comes from surrender, from wisdom, from the quiet, powerful decision to stop fighting battles that don't belong to you. Let it go. Trust the process. Protect your peace and keep walking forward. Because the less you try to control, the more power you'll feel. And that's the kind of emotional strength that changes everything. 5, practice deep breathing. You'd be surprised how many of life's storms can become with one simple act. Breathing. Not just the automatic shallow breaths we take throughout the day, but deep, intentional, life-affirming breaths that ground us, anchor us, and bring us back to the present moment. In the middle of emotional chaos, we forget that peace is as close as our lungs. We run to distractions, we react with frustration, we drown in thoughts, but rarely do we pause, place a hand on our heart, and just breathe. Deep breathing is not just a physical habit, it's a spiritual reset. It tells your nervous system you're safe. It reminds your heart you're still here. It whispers to your mind, you're not lost, you're just overwhelmed. And in that moment of slowing down, you begin to reclaim power because breath brings clarity. It interrupts panic. It softens anger. It opens a door to emotional control that's always been within you, waiting for you to step through. When life spins out of control, breathing brings you back to the center. That's why this habit isn't just helpful. It's transformational. It teaches you to respond from peace instead of reacting from pain. We've been taught to power through, to keep grinding, to ignore the signals our bodies send. But breath, real breath, is the bridge between your body and your mind. It's the anchor that steadies your soul when the world feels like it's crashing around you. When you feel anger rising like a tidal wave, stop and breathe. When anxiety creeps in and your chest tightens, pause and breathe. When someone disrespects you, when plans fall apart, when fear clouds your thinking, before you speak, before you act, before you spiral, breathe. That moment of stillness is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's emotional intelligence in action. Because in that pause, you give yourself space to choose. You're not just reacting. You're leading yourself back to calm, back to clarity, back to the version of you that knows how to respond with strength and grace. Deep breathing is more than relaxation. It's the foundation of emotional regulation. It's what separates impulsiveness from intention. It's what teaches you how to master your mood instead of being ruled by it. There's a reason ancient warriors, monks, athletes, and spiritual leaders have all turned to breath work. It works. It slows your heart rate. It lowers cortisol. It shifts your mind from fight or flight to rest and recover. And in a world that constantly triggers us, overwhelms us, and pressures us to react without thinking, deep breathing is your sanctuary. You don't need a yoga mat. You don't need incense or soft music. You just need a moment. A breath in through the nose, slow and steady, hold. Then out through the mouth, like you're releasing the weight of the world. Do it again and again. And watch your body soften. Watch your thoughts clear. Watch your spirit rise above the storm. That's the magic of breathing. It creates space. And in that space, you make better decisions. You speak with more grace. You see things with more perspective. It's not about escaping emotion. It's about embracing it with the strength to stay grounded. Think about the last time you were overwhelmed. Maybe someone said something hurtful. Maybe life hit you with one of those moments that stops you in your tracks. What did you do? Most people tense up, speak harshly, act impulsively. They don't think, they react. But if you had taken just 10 seconds to close your eyes and breathe, that moment could have gone differently. You might have responded with understanding instead of anger. You might have held your tongue instead of saying something you regret. You might have remembered your worth instead of sinking into self-doubt. That's the power of breath. It's not just about calming down. It's about coming back to yourself, the real you, the steady, thoughtful, wise you, because when you're grounded, you don't let temporary emotions drive permanent decisions. You move with purpose, not pressure. That's what deep breathing gives you. A pause, a window, a reset. It's free, it's simple, but it's one of the most powerful tools you'll ever own. When you build the habit of deep breathing into your daily life, it becomes second nature. You stop waiting for crisis to breathe. You start making it part of your rhythm. You wake up and before the day grabs you by the collar, you breathe. You take a moment before a meeting, before a conversation, before a decision, and you breathe. You sit in traffic, you breathe. You feel fear creeping in about the future, and instead of drowning in it, you breathe through it. That habit changes your emotional landscape. It builds resilience. Because the more you practice deep breathing when things are calm, the more natural it becomes when things are not. It's like strengthening a muscle. Each breath, each pause builds your ability to remain calm under pressure. You're not avoiding the storm. You're just learning how to stand in it without losing your balance. And that's the kind of quiet strength the world needs more of. The kind that doesn't shout, doesn't fight, doesn't panic, but simply breathes and moves forward with power. Breath also reconnects you to gratitude. When you slow down and breathe deeply, you start to notice more. The way the air feels in your lungs, the way your heart is still beating, still showing up for you, the way life is still unfolding, even in the middle of your pain. Deep breathing brings you into the moment. And the moment is where peace lives. Not in the past that haunts you, not in the future that scares you, but here, now, in the breath you're taking. And when you live from that place, present, grounded, grateful, you begin to see life differently. You stop rushing, you stop forcing, you start flowing, you start trusting, you start healing, all from one simple practice. Inhale, exhale, repeat. Over and over until your body knows what your mind forgot. That you're not your fear. You're not your anger. You're not your trauma. You're the observer. You're the healer. And the breath is your bridge back to yourself. This isn't just about emotion, it's about energy. When you're anxious, your breath is short and fast. When you're angry, it's tight and shallow. Your breath mirrors your mind. So if you want to shift your emotional state, start by shifting your breathing. When you breathe deeply, you send a signal to your brain, we're okay. And your body follows. Your muscles relax, your jaw unclenches, your thoughts slow down, and suddenly you're not at the mercy of your emotions, you're guiding them. You're leading your energy instead of being led by it. That's leadership. That's emotional control. That's maturity. And it starts with something as simple as the breath you take when nobody's watching. The breath you choose when your patience is tested. The breath you take before you say something that can't be unsaid. Practice that. Make it sacred, make it daily, and you'll discover a quiet kind of power that few ever tap into. The power of mastering your emotional rhythm through breath. Even in the most difficult seasons of life, deep breathing becomes your secret weapon. When grief strikes, when betrayal stings, when disappointment knocks you down, your breath is still with you. You may not have all the answers. You may not have control over the situation, but you always have control over how you respond. And that starts with the breath. Even if you're shaking, even if your heart is heavy, even if the tears won't stop, breathe. Let that be your anchor. Let that be your signal to your soul that you're not giving up. You're grounding yourself. You're still here. You're still strong. And with every deep breath, you're reclaiming one more inch of peace. That's how healing begins. Not with a dramatic breakthrough, but with a single silent breath that says, I'm going to be okay. Build that into your life and you'll weather any storm. Not because life is easy, but because your foundation is unshakable. So starting today, don't wait for chaos to remind you to breathe. Choose to breathe on purpose. Make it a ritual. Make it part of your morning, part of your response to stress, part of your path to peace. There is power in the pause. And breath is the gateway. It costs nothing, but it gives you everything. Clarity, strength, resilience, and calm. Let that be your reset when emotions rise. Let it be your guide when life spins too fast. The world will keep moving. People will keep pushing. But you can choose to pause, to breathe, to rise above the noise. And when you do, you're not just controlling your emotions. You're commanding your energy. You're leading your life. So take a breath right now, deep and slow. That's your power. That's your peace. And it's always within reach. Number 6, forgive for your own peace. Forgiveness is one of the hardest things you'll ever do. Letting go of the pain someone caused you, the betrayal that pierced you, the words that wounded you. It's not easy, but it's necessary. Because forgiveness is not about them. It's not about excusing what happened. It's not about pretending the hurt didn't matter. Forgiveness is about setting yourself free. When you hold on to bitterness, you chain yourself to the past. You replay moments that can't be undone. You carry emotional poison in your heart, hoping it somehow affects the one who hurt you. But the truth is, they may never apologize. They may never understand what they did. They may never feel the pain they caused. So you forgive, not because they deserve peace, but because you do. You deserve rest. You deserve healing. You deserve to move forward unburdened. Forgiveness is not a gift for them. It's a gift for your soul. It's how you reclaim your power. Because every time you let the pain define you, they still have control. But when you forgive, you take your power back. And nothing is more powerful than peace. Think about the times you've held on to anger, how it sat in your chest like fire, burning through your joy, your patience, your focus. How every time you saw their name or heard their voice in your memory, your stomach turned, your fist clenched, and your heart ached all over again. That's not living. That's surviving with a wound that's never allowed to heal. And here's the truth. You don't heal by holding on. You heal by releasing. Forgiveness doesn't mean you forget. It doesn't mean you let them back in. It doesn't even mean the relationship is repaired. Forgiveness is about you deciding that your peace matters more than your pain. It's about choosing to no longer let what they did define who you are. It's about freeing yourself from the emotional weight that's been dragging you through life. You deserve better than that. You deserve to live with a heart that beats with hope, not hatred. You deserve to let go of what happened, not because it was okay, but because you won't let it break you anymore. The journey to forgiveness isn't a straight line. It's messy. Some days you'll feel like you've moved on, and the next, a memory will hit you like a wave. That's okay. Healing is not a destination. It's a process. And every step you take toward forgiving is a step toward freedom. You may cry, you may scream, you may write a letter you'll never send, but eventually you'll realize that forgiveness is the bravest choice you'll ever make. It takes strength to say, I will not let this define me anymore. It takes strength to let the wound close without revenge. It takes strength to say, you hurt me, but I choose to rise. Forgiveness is not weakness, it's power in its purest form. It's how you look pain in the face and say, you don't get to win. That's the strength you carry inside you. You may not have had control over what happened, but you have complete control over how you respond now. And forgiveness is your weapon. Use it not to destroy, but to release, to reclaim, to rise. There's something incredible that happens when you truly forgive. The air gets lighter. The anger loses its grip. The memories soften. You wake up and the burden isn't the first thing you feel. That's what peace feels like. But peace doesn't come from the outside. It comes from the quiet decision you make in your heart to let go. People might never understand what you went through. They might never see the scars or know how deep the hurt runs. But that's not their story to know. It's yours to grow through. And when you choose forgiveness, you're choosing not to let the pain rob you of one more moment. That doesn't mean you're weak. That means you're wise. You know, holding on isn't hurting them. It's hurting you. And you've got too much life ahead of you to let one chapter hold you hostage. You deserve to feel light again, to smile without pretending, to move without dragging chains behind you. Forgiveness gives you that. And though it may feel hard now, each step closer to it is a step closer to peace. Some people will never say sorry. They'll walk away from the wreckage they caused and act like nothing happened. That will sting. It will make you question everything. But here's the truth. Your healing is not tied to their apology. Waiting for them to make it right only keeps you stuck. You don't need closure from someone who couldn't respect your heart. You need truth within yourself. You need the strength to say, I don't need you to acknowledge what you did. I acknowledge what it did to me, and I choose to let it go. That's real healing. That's owning your story. Forgiveness doesn't mean they win. It means they no longer get to control your emotions. You rise above. You reclaim your smile. You rebuild your joy. And when the pain comes knocking, you remind it, I've let this go. I'm free. Because that's what forgiveness does. It unlocks the door you thought you'd never walk through. It lets the light back in. There are wounds we carry that no one can see. Wounds from childhood, betrayal, heartbreak, lies. We smile, we show up, but inside, we're still bleeding. Forgiveness isn't a bandage. It's the healing process itself. It's how we finally say, I deserve better than this pain. You don't need to pretend it didn't happen. You don't need to erase the memories. You just need to stop living from them. You are not your trauma. You are not your scars. You are not the person they tried to break. You are the survivor. You are the healer. And forgiveness is how you finally step into that role. You reclaim your future by no longer reliving the past. You write a new story, one where you choose peace over pain, freedom over fear, and healing over hate. It's not easy, but it's worth it. And the moment you start forgiving, for real, you'll feel something shift. You'll breathe deeper. You'll laugh louder. You'll live lighter. That's the life you deserve. That's what forgiveness gives. People often think forgiveness means everything goes back to how it was. But that's not the truth. Forgiveness doesn't mean you trust them again. It doesn't mean you invite them back into your life. It doesn't mean the relationship is restored. Forgiveness is a one-way street. It's about your heart, your peace, your healing. You can forgive and still set boundaries. You can forgive and never speak to them again. You can forgive and still protect your space. That's not being cold, that's being wise. You've learned from the pain. You've grown from the experience, and now you walk with wisdom. That's the gift of forgiveness. It teaches you not only how to let go, but how to love yourself better, how to stop chasing closures and start building your peace. You're not giving up. You're rising up. You're choosing to live free from bitterness. You're refusing to let someone else's actions define your future. That's not weakness. That's the highest form of strength. The world needs more forgiveness. We're so quick to cancel, to judge, to cut off. But healing rarely comes from hate. It comes from choosing compassion, starting with yourself. Because sometimes the hardest person to forgive is the one staring back in the mirror. Maybe you've made mistakes. Maybe you've hurt people. Maybe you've let yourself down. Forgive that too. Don't carry shame for the rest of your life. You are still worthy. You are still growing. And just like others deserve grace, so do you. Forgiveness is a full circle act. It's how we mend not just what was done to us, but what we've done to ourselves. It's how we find wholeness in a broken world. And when you forgive, truly forgive, you become a light, a source of peace, a reflection of grace. That doesn't make you weak. That makes you powerful beyond measure. Because the ability to forgive in a world full of pain is the clearest sign that you've risen above it. And that's the kind of strength no one can steal. So if you're still carrying something, someone who wronged you, a past that haunts you, a weight you can't seem to drop, let today be the day you start releasing it. You don't have to forget. You don't have to make sense of it. You just have to say, I won't carry this anymore. Speak it aloud, write it down, cry it out, do whatever you need to do. But forgive, not for them, for you, for the peace that's been waiting on the other side of the pain, for the freedom your soul has been craving, for the joy that's been buried under bitterness. You owe it to yourself to feel light again, to walk in healing, to live without chains. And that begins with one courageous choice: to forgive. It might be the hardest thing you ever do, but it will be the most powerful. Because when you choose forgiveness, you choose life, you choose love, you choose peace. And nothing, not pain, not betrayal, not memory, can take that away from you. As we come to the close of this powerful journey through the essential habits that foster peace and emotional strength, it's important to pause and truly reflect on everything we've uncovered together. Life, in all its complexity, will always present challenges, difficult people, uncertain circumstances, inner struggles, but you are not powerless. You hold the keys to your peace. Every single day you have the opportunity to take back control over how you respond to the world around you. It's not about perfection. It's about intention. It's about the quiet daily decision to prioritize your emotional well-being and your spiritual health. And that begins with the choices you make, the habits you embrace. Choosing your battles wisely means you no longer allow every disagreement or disrespect to disrupt your inner harmony. Shifting your perspective allows you to see obstacles not as punishments, but as platforms for growth. Practicing daily gratitude keeps your heart rooted in what's good, even when things feel hard. Letting go of what you can't control helps you surrender the illusion of control and focus on what you can actually change. Your mindset, your actions, your faith. Deep breathing, though simple, can be a powerful tool to calm the storms inside and ground you in the present moment. Forgiveness, though difficult, is your path to inner freedom. Not for them, but for you. Each of these habits is a seed, and when you plant them consistently, they grow into peace, resilience, and emotional clarity. You don't have to do it all at once. You don't have to have it all figured out. The most meaningful transformations begin in small, consistent steps. Maybe today, you pause before reacting. Maybe tomorrow, you write down 3 things you're grateful for. Maybe this week, you release one person from the prison of your resentment. And in doing these things, you're not just forming habits, you're building a new life. One rooted in calm strength, not chaotic emotion. One grounded in peace, not panic. One directed by faith, not fear. Because the truth is, the most powerful thing you can ever master is yourself. And these habits are the tools to do exactly that. So wherever you are in your journey, remember this: peace is not found in a perfect life. It's found in a disciplined mind. It's created through the choices you make, one day at a time. You are capable of healing. You are worthy of peace. And every step you take toward emotional clarity is a step toward a better, freer, more powerful version of you. Don't let the past hold you hostage. Don't let other people dictate your mood, your worth, or your future. Take back your power. Choose peace. Live intentionally. And no matter how long it takes, keep showing up for yourself, because you're worth that kind of effort, that kind of love, and that kind of transformation. Thank you for walking through this journey with an open heart. May you move forward with clarity, with strength, and above all, with peace. God bless you, and thank you for listening.